For our wedding, my wife and I went to New York. We got married in the beautiful High Line, and it was lovely. On the day before our wedding, we decided to take a walk around the city to enjoy ourselves. Eventually, we grew hungry. And if you've ever read The Paradox of Choice, you might know where this is going, because Manhattan is a sea of eateries. And being hungry in a sea of eateries is a hell second only to being hungry in a desert. So there we are, one day before our wedding, and my future wife and I are beside one another in a nuclear reactor of agitation. Now, we survived the ordeal, but the situation was as memorable as the nuptials themselves. Being a technologist, I felt that I could avoid the torture in the future with technology. I figured that an app could be developed that could simply go to all the restaurants in your vicinity and sort them to the ones that just match your diet and profile. But why stop there? Because it could also go through Yelp sites and menu sites in order to find a single item that best matches your diet. But why stop there? Because it could also detect if you're near a friend who also has the app and only give you results that match both of your diet profiles. But why stop there? Because if it could go through your budgets, it could also sort those by the most affordable and reasonably priced. But why stop there? Because using even more analytics, it can actually predict when you will be hungry, and that way it can send you directions to the best restaurant in your vicinity before you even hear your stomach growl. But why stop there? It could even send that to a local food delivery service and have hot, nutritious, affordable food delivered right to your location the moment you get peckish. And tip the driver. Imagine a world where nobody is ever hangry. Professionally, I spend a lot of my time looking at digital technologies for the sick and elderly. And that means that product development in my field puts me face to face with products that I've yet to ever experience that most of us almost definitely will. Also, product development requires you, by necessity, to put yourself in the seat of the people who your products are intended for. You actually have to be them for a while. And so a product development meeting becomes a type of active role play as you try to figure out their pains and frustrations. These opportunities have given me an interesting perspective on what quality of life actually means. Quality of life is inextricably tied to quality of death. They're not even two sides of the same coin. That's still two separate. They're actually two words on the same page and part of the same story. Now, if I could ask you all to close your eyes for just a moment and try to picture the world you want to live in. Now, I'm not a gambling man, but I'd say it's a fair bet that in your vision, none of you are dying. Now, if I asked you to do the opposite and imagine the world that you wanted to die in, you'd be living. Hence, part of my business motto: build the world you want to die in. Writer Susan Ertz once wrote, "Millions long for immortality that don't know what to do with themselves on a rainy Sunday afternoon." Often, when we hear about health and wellness technology, it comes with a fanfare of the next best thing and miracle cures and diseases being pushed back. Now, mankind's attempt to push back the edge of mortality and do our best to abolish suffering is completely worthwhile. It's noble and worthy of all of our support and celebration. However, there's something ironically, although expectedly inhuman about using this approach alone. It becomes regarded as a battle against death. And this is not a biological war, ladies and gentlemen. This is a war against thermodynamics. The lesson we learned from the tale of Lazarus is that no matter how much we do to push back death, no matter how much we prolong life, eventually it will end. And so the problem with designing the world you want to die in is that, generally speaking, we don't want to die. Now, I'm not proposing that any of us should want to die, but rather I'm saying that since we know we are going to, why not do so on our own terms? I believe that in order to be ready to die, you have to be ready to let go. Now, letting go does not mean giving up. Letting go actually means giving. Letting go is a type of bestowal, the type that reciprocates, and that means that you need trust. You need to have trust and have confidence in the machinations you are leaving behind, and you have to pass the baton to them. But taking the baton from us is exactly what our technology does best. It is our means of injecting our will into the world. That being said, a world that merely crystallizes my will and my intentions is not the one I want to die in, or really live in for that matter. And that's because in order to be ready to let go, You have to be ready like a trust fall. You're going to want technology that will take care of you. You're going to want technology that cares for you. You're going to want technology that's compassionate. So what is compassionate technology? The Internet of Things revolution places sensors on billions of devices to track and collect data. Now, if our technology can sense, at some very rudimentary level it can feel. Data analytics and machine learning allows us to get millions of insights from our machine companions, and I will argue that if our technology can analyze at some very basic level, it can think. But feeling and thinking technology is not enough and only assures us that we can build potentially sociopathic chatbots. That's what my first point is. We need to start by addressing the fact that ethics and empathy, although not within the realm of pure cognition, does have a process, and addressing that process in each stage of our technology. The world you want to die in is not just the world that has robotic prosthetic legs. It's a world that also provides technology that accommodates and kindly overlooks your paralysis. And it's building technology of compassion instead of power that's really empowering because it lets you let go so that you can get some of your autonomy back. In fact, it's technology that expands itself for you as your autonomy shrinks. If you've managed to survive puberty, I only just barely did, then you've already faced the fact that your body will change around you as you age. But isn't it enough to change the way you experience being in your body to also change the environment and patterns that you exist in at that time? At the end of my great aunt's life, my mother took the role of her primary caretaker. My sister and I became more involved as she became overwhelmed with responsibilities and watched as one by one my great aunt's faculty seemed to be taken away. And sometimes I would speak to her as myself, only to find out that to her I was some other nephew. When her legs gave in beneath her on the way to the bathroom, we would lift her up and carry her there until we found out that the bedpan left fewer bruises on her skin than our fingers did when lifting her. Eventually, when she grew silent, we began to miss being wrongly called names of long-dead siblings and the stories and tales she would incessantly tell day after day. In her last days, we watched over her in hospice, and finally, standing beside her when she breathed her last breath, I gently closed her eyes for her, the last physical ability she would lose, and the last I would assist her with. I think about this, and though I know that no technology exists that could have taken my place at that time, I wonder what procedures and processes could have been embedded to make it easier for everyone involved. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. See, as we grow older, as we age, we worry about the capabilities that get taken away from us. Our sight, hearing, cognition, mobility might slip away as if by the spin of a biological roulette wheel. And though we may not know what or when we will lose, we can make an educated guess that we will lose it. And this goes beyond just digital technology. You might not know that you will lose your mobility, but you can build a ramp on your house in your 20s. And you can become familiar and intimate with that ramp. And as you age, as you change, your home, your front steps don't need to change in an already uncertain time. They will still be there, that ramp, ready to catch you, whether you meet it by the soles of your feet or the tread of your wheels. The world you want to die in is the world you want to live in. And that's what makes this so powerful. It's also my second point, that you have to live with it. You begin now, not by focusing on your oblivion, but by consciously asking yourself, how can I build a world that learns me? How can I build a world that knows and cares for me? How can I build compassion into everything around me? Building that compassion into things allows our autonomy to really rise. And like our friends and family, it has to always have been there. It has to always have been there, learning us and taking care of us, gaining our trust. So eventually, it's ready to catch you when you finally do let go. And when you're ready to let go of the wheel, well, then you're ready for the self-driving car. And there's also a big difference between the technology that outlives you and the technology that forestalls your end of life. Building the world you want to die in is not building the world you want to live behind. This is not about a legacy, and this is my third point. It's personal. What I'm talking about is building a world where systems exist so you can look around and say, I faced my mortality with an intentionality, with a bravery that affected the lives of everyone who witnessed it. And this emanating wave that ripples out is the only important cultural legacy that exists here. And that is the world that I want to die in. It's also my retirement plan. And I have the privilege of being able to do work to build the quality of life I would want for myself or for anybody else at a time when quality of life is all that really matters anymore. And so do any of you, simply by demanding these criteria of all the technology you purchase and use. But why stop there? Because death is where it ends. My last and final point is this. Building the world that you want to die in is ultimately about being able to go into the world, look around and say, this is nice. I've done good work. I could spend my whole life here. Thank you.